Hello, boils and ghouls, and welcome back to my channel. Or if this is your first time here, welcome. I did not want to be on camera today, so instead I thought I'd include a picture of that time that I was Barb from Stranger Things for Halloween. And in the background is a little sneaky peeky of part one. That way, if you haven't watched part one, you can do so now and not ruin the whole thing. The link for part one is down in the description. I had clearly intended to have this done before Halloween. However, a full-time job, life, and the amount of work that goes into this project have prevented that from happening. So instead, I am going to continue to work on it throughout the month of October, and as I finish a side, I will post a video for it. This also means there won't be a certain day that I post the videos because I will post them as they're completed. And I think that's about all I really need to say. So let's go check out part two of the Halloween Advent Calendar. I'm starting out with this locket. It's a broken bit of jewelry and it was gold, but I painted the front black with acrylic paint. I just didn't film that. And I'm going to use these Tim Holtz ephemera pieces to put pictures inside. Now, this is a trick I like to do for things like this. I will trace the shape onto a piece of clear plastic. In this case, this is one of those sheets you use for a projector, but you could just use a piece of packaging or anything that you can see through. And I'll trace the shape so that when I lay it down to cut out the picture, I can make sure that it's centered and is cut to the right size. And I'm going to use my archival inks and my distress inks to just add aging to these. I did also scratch out the gentleman's eyes and mouth, and I'm putting some watered down paint in there to kind of make it more noticeable. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a base coat of black on the inside of the locket as well. And this is just black acrylic paint that I'm using for that. And I'm just showing you that I added marker because the lines on his face weren't noticeable enough. And I'm gluing them in with E6000, so I want to make sure they don't move anywhere. And I'm going to put a protective coat of Mod Podge on them because I want to put a crackle medium on them. And when I tried this the first time, the crackle actually peeled the photo off. So I did it again with Mod Podge first, and it was successful that way. Now, these two books I got on Amazon, and I am going to be using some of the images from it, so I wanted to show you where these came from. And while my locket's drying, I'm just working on the drawer fronts. And I'm going with a spooky love gone wrong sort of theme. You can kind of interpret it any way that you want to interpret it. And you'll notice whenever I put Mod Podge down, I tap it with a sponge because I don't like having lines from the brush in my Mod Podge. And that sticker I just pulled out, I only needed the 10 on it, so there you go. And I'm just showing you here that I'm drilling holes for the handles I'll be putting on the front later. If you want to see more of the construction of this project, you need to make sure you watched part one. That'll explain better about the handles and how I made the base. So this is a good tip here. If you're going to be cutting something that flies away when you cut it, put tape on it first and then it won't fly across the room. And then it won't go in your eye or you won't step on it later. So those were just regular, sewing pins, but they're not strong enough to stick into the box, especially with the end cut off. So I just used a thicker tack to make some pilot holes. And then I'm going to stick my pins in those holes using some E6000. And I will reinforce that later, but for now, I'm just going to use the E6000 and then let that dry completely. And I'm going to add some gold accents. This is a rub-on transfer from Dollar Tree. I do love Dollar Tree rub-on transfers normally, like the colorful ones, but these gold ones are really hard to rub. Like I had to rub a lot for them to come off the backing, and I'm not sure if I got a bad one or if it's because they're gold. So you can see here that this page, you're meant to use the bear and the butterflies, but I wanted to have this pattern on this box, and I didn't want to waste all of this sticker background, and I didn't want to ruin the bear or the butterflies just for a background. So I'm just using the scraps to Frankenstein together the background. And because it's so busy, you can't tell. And I'll just coat that with Mod Podge to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And because I love this pattern so much, I'm actually going to save these scraps so that I can use them in another project in the future. So I'm just sticking them right onto that sheet of plastic. So that plastic has a lot of uses. This is from a bit of mail that I got. I thought the roses were pretty, so I kept them. And this quote is from one of those books from Amazon. It's a quote from Edgar Allan Poe. It says, "We loved with a love that was more than love." And this is another rub-on transfer from Dollar Tree, only this time black and much easier to rub on. And you can see I kind of figure out where I want things before I stick them down permanently. This is a button from Walmart. I got a set of different buttons that kind of look like different antique objects. And these are stickers from Dollar Tree. I'm just painting over the background. It's already like a coppery, bronzy color, but I wanted it to be a little bit darker and look less like a sticker, so I'm just putting another coat of paint on it. Does anybody else like to collage? I love collaging. So I'm going to use E6000 to stick that sticker down, and then I did let it dry with weight on top of it so it would stay flat. Now to reinforce those pins, I'm using fabric paint, like a 3D fabric paint. This one came from Dollar Tree, but you can use whatever one. I'm just going to pull out some stickers that I'll be using. This one I only used the heart on, but I did save the other half of the sticker for something else. Now I want to see everything all together, but I don't have the handles on my boxes yet, so I'm just throwing some random objects in there so that the drawers don't slip down while I'm working on it. Because if they go inside without the handle, it's hard to get them back out again. Some of these pieces are Tim Holtz ephemera, some are the stickers, and some are the ephemera from those books that I showed you. This is a little bit of broken jewelry that I added a little chain to, and I put it in such a way that it looks like the raven is holding it in its beak. But I am going to use E6000 on the main part of the charm just to make sure it doesn't fall off. And that little bird was also one of those buttons from Walmart. And this is just a cheap gold ring that was from some broken jewelry. Oh, and these stickers are from Dollar Tree. Now here, I realized that I did not sand down my drawers before I started. So now that I've painted them and put all this extra thickness on them, they don't want to go in and out smoothly. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to sand them down. So to try to make that process a little bit quicker, I'm using my Dremel. And then after I Dremel a lot of it off, I'm using a sanding block that I got at Dollar Tree to smooth it out a little. And I'm using my fancy black paint. That's the name of the paint. It's from Arteza. So it sort of looks like aged bronze. And I'm rubbing it in with my finger to make sure that it's not too thick in any areas so that I don't have that problem of fitting again. And while I have the fancy black out, I'm going over the locket with it as well so that it looks bronze and not just flat black. Now here I'm just showing you what I do to cover the back of the box. So each box has a hole in it because that's the handle for the box when you get it from Dollar Tree. And I don't want that hole there, so I'm gonna just cover that up with some decorative items. And I decided to do little mini collages for that. So I'm just showing you one of them here, but I do make 4 different ones. And I'm just going to go back through with some more of those rub-on transfers. And I'm taking my Distress inks and my archival inks again, and I'm going to age everything up. Obviously, I let the Mod Podge dry first. This is a frame made of hot glue. I have a silicone mold that makes little frames, and I just painted it black. And I'm just showing you some of the stuff I'll be using, like those jewels, and then these little flowers were from a bead set from Dollar Tree, and the larger ones are actually broken earrings. I used my E6000 to glue them into this little frame, and then I'm just filling in the background with some black jewels and some Dimensional Magic. This was, I think, a broken earring. And then off camera, I added this chain with a couple of heart-shaped charms. And I'm just going through with some gold acrylic paint to bring out the details on some of these things that I glued on. These are very tiny paper roses, which I got from Hobby Lobby. And these are large paper roses that I got at Michael's a long time ago. You can see here I put all the drawers back in so that I can kind of finish off my collage here with everything all together so I can make sure it all looks good together. This little jewel thing is actually one of those buttons from that set from Walmart. And here's some more of those jewel stickers from Dollar Tree. I just cut it apart as needed. And they do have a self-adhesive back, but it's not strong. So I'm putting them in place right now with their adhesive, but I will Mod Podge over them to keep them on there permanently. I decided I needed more roses and red, so I added those roses to the top, and then on the bottom left is some dried flowers that you are supposed to use for nail art. And I'm just going over again with some Distress inks to grime everything up and blend it together, make it look old. And I used black soot, vintage photo, and walnut stain. Here I'm putting a black wash over everything. This black wash is one I always use, which is the Black Magic Craft recipe. You can look up his video to get the recipe. You can also just water down paint, acrylic paint, and that works too. I like this a little bit better. Plus I mixed up a big bottle of it that I just keep in my craft room because I age things a lot, so I'm always using it. And it does dry lighter than it looks when you put it down, so you can be a little heavy-handed with it. And I do wipe off with a paper towel if I do a little bit too much. And I just thought it needed some more gold accents, so this is a little heart-shaped charm that I have. And this was a little lapel pin. I just cut the pin back off of it, and I'm gluing it down with E6000. And then I decided to put a little screw in the charm so it looks like it's screwed onto the box. I think it's like a eyeglass screw, so it's really tiny. So I put glue first, E6000 glue, and then I screwed it into the wood. And now I'm just going over again with a wash, but this time it's a brown wash. These are really cheap rub-ons from Amazon. And because they're cheap, they're not permanent, so you do have to seal them after you use them. And then I'm also taking some gold paint to use on the paper roses. Here I'm adding a little red jewel for the raven's eye, and then I'm just going to age over the top of it so it blends in more. And I added some more of the black wash to his body to make him a little darker black. And here I'm showing you what I was doing with those little collages I made to fill in the back. And because I always have to make sure everything is finished all the way around, I will also finish off the back. So I fill in the hole with hot glue, and then I'm putting some sand on there and patting it down. And this is just sand from the dollar store. And then I'm going to go around the edge with some gold paint just to give it a little bit of a design. I mean, it's unlikely that people are going to pull the drawer out and look at the back, but it makes me feel better to make it look pretty. And this is the brown wash. I'm just putting that onto the sand and then wiping off the excess. Then as the final step, I am going to Mod Podge over everything, including the handles, because I did put some of the rub on the handles. And I will do all the sides of the boxes and the insides and everything so that all the paint is nice and sealed in. And we give it our little pat with our sponge to get the brush strokes out. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching me waste some talent. I hope that you enjoyed this part 2. Comment down below, let me know what you think. Remember to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for part 3 coming up hopefully very soon. I hope you all are having a wonderfully spooky October, and remember, be excellent to each other. Bye.